I'm Andrea Butcher, and this is Being at Work. Being a leader is hard. So on this show, I set out to talk with experienced leaders to learn from their pivotal moments, how they led through the challenges we can all relate to but are often unheard. On today's episode, I am joined by Lisa Price, Chief People Officer at CAR Global, a global Fortune 1000 company. CAR's complementary businesses provide support, technology, and logistics for the used vehicle industry. Lisa has such a great story. She knew at age 7 she wanted to be a lawyer. And because she leaned into a couple of key opportunities that popped up for her, not only has she been a successful employment lawyer, today she leads the HR talent function for CAR Global. There are two key themes that emerge through her story: the importance of authenticity and support. Both show up in her career-defining moments. Lisa is a gem. She is such a genuine leader and cares so much about her team and the people around her. That comes through so clearly as she's sharing her story. Take a listen.
It was early career stage. You're a lawyer in a law firm, or really trying to move up on the partnership track, and was rising fast. It was successful. And I had a colleague leave to go into ADESA, now one of the business units of CAR Global, and sort of watched her journey as a transition into in-house counsel and thought that's something I'd be interested in. That opportunity came out of nowhere in late 2005 to explore essentially what might be on that other side of the in-house legal standpoint. And it just so happened that on a personal front, my husband and I were just starting our family. So I was 8 months pregnant with my first child in the interview stage, and a month out, paid leave was just around the corner. And there was no missing or hiding the fact, of course, that I was expecting. It wasn't an elephant in the room, but it was pretty close to something like that. So on a personal level, I was already on the cusp of some pretty big life changes. And here I was contemplating, introducing another big change from a career standpoint, and one I frankly hadn't prepared for or imagined at that time. So it wasn't a decision that I was taking lightly, and quite frankly, that my colleagues at the law firm understood, specifically at the managing partner level. They just flat out told me, you're making a mistake. You're overhead when you move into the corporate setting. You're a money spender, not a money maker. And as you're being told that 8 months pregnant, and you've got all the life decisions ahead of you, career decisions, it just was a lot of weight. And I thought, I need to make the best decision for me from a career standpoint, knowing the family, standpoint was following either way. And so making that decision to leave partnership track, go in-house, for me to get over that hurdle, I really felt I had to embrace change, not view it as limiting or scary, but instead more opportunistic, and see what's behind that curtain, what's next. And I think that really from a challenge, or where I learned a lot about myself there, was courage and choices. I think a lot of times that we're very quick to question, can I do that? Will I be successful at that? But really the courage and choices as a leader, you make the decision, go all in, take that chance. And even though if it's not in your comfort zone, go for it. And so that's what I did in 2005, and super thrilled to say I'm still in that corporation that I joined in 2005 from a lawyer standpoint.
What was it that drove that decision? Because you, like you said, you weren't supported by your colleagues, and at the management level, even sounds like discouraged. What was it within you that drove that tough choice?
Yeah, so while at the law firm, I've always focused on employment law, that employment compliance focus, anywhere from employment laws to discrimination, contract work, M&A activity. Just I had that passion and goal. And within the law firm, I represented, companies within Indiana. I was licensed in Indiana. And this opportunity to move in-house for two reasons. It gave me a dedicated client, someone that I could help both on the proactive and reactive side, and grow that consistent understanding of their business practices, their vision from a business, but be their lockstep in exactly their journey and their vision. But it also gave me an opportunity to work for a company of a North America scale at that point. So I immediately got exposure to all 50 states, Canada, Mexico. It was that challenge. Like, what, I know I could do more. I always say that, I'm a good student and I will learn anything, I'll try anything. And to me, that was just an opportunity to stretch myself. Both had the confidence, I have the ability, but how do you put those together and get out of your comfort zone? And I frankly just thought I'd be more successful in that in-house setting. I think there's a lot of people that think that in-house counsel is better, easier, less hours than those in a law firm, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. It's not true at all. It's not a better work-life balance. You're going to have those challenges in any role that you have, but it was more from my own career perspective. Where did I want to go? Where did I want to see myself in 3 years, 5 years? Besides a new mom, I knew that I wanted to be fulfilled professionally as well.
So you certainly were thinking about longer term goals. And I think so much of the time when I'm talking with folks about career changes, we make decisions from a place of stability and comfort. And you did not do that. You definitely chose courage and a bit of a risk in making that move.
It did. It felt like a big risk, but quite frankly, and with pure hindsight and gratitude, the company took a risk on me. I was there 2 weeks and then went out for 3 months on a maternity leave. So they believed in me and what I was bringing to the table. And, my ability to sell that value within, a series of 4 to 5 interviews, that's fantastic. And it just gives you confidence in where you're going and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, I love the story, regardless of the fact you were pregnant, but the fact that you were 8 months pregnant, it's pretty awesome. But that wasn't a deterrent, of course, as it shouldn't be.
Exactly. And you know that, right? I know that. I'm an employment lawyer. I definitely know that. And they were hiring for an in-house corporate lawyer focused on employment. So you say they knew that, but you always wonder if you are in the best position, if you're the best candidate going in like that. So I was super appreciative of the entire team at that time to choose me. But on the contrary, I was the best candidate. So it proves in staying there in that role for 8 years.
14 years later, look how your role has evolved. So talk about that. I mean, this is a kind of a new day for Car Global. You have a new vision that you're launching. Tell us first about the evolution from in-house counsel to leading the human resources function. When did that happen?
So unexpectedly, as you said, in 2013, I experienced that truly is a fork in the road, right? You have a path to choose from. I was 8 years into the corporate counsel role, had been promoted to vice president, was reporting to our general counsel, and had the scope of all of North America at that point, and was thrilled in that role. From a moving up standpoint, the next practical role would be associate general counsel, but that associate role didn't exist. So I was always looking for path. And when you're working for a company, at that point with more than 12,000 employees, you think there's some mobility opportunity and some learning opportunity, but hadn't quite started exploring those. And at the time, CAR was coming out of what was private equity ownership. We were going public, and our CEO, Jim Hallett, and the entire senior leadership team at the time had amply noticed, right, that there was not a people champion at the senior leadership table. That role had essentially been eliminated back in 2007, and it wasn't replaced. We had a VP of HR operations and a VP of HR administration, both that sort of worked in silos and were not truly represented at the leadership table. And so it was quite a surprise one day when the CEO, Jim Hallett, came literally around the corner to my corner office and said, hey, would you consider taking on the VP of HR role? moving out of legal and taking the realm there and joining this senior leadership team. And I looked at him and said, no. I honestly said, no, unless you have run a search and you believe I'm the right candidate. I've had the general counsel at the time, talk to me, other members of the senior leadership team, but I really wanted to make sure that the team as a whole thought I was the best candidate and that my credentials would stack up to someone applying off the street as well. And they did. That's what they did. They did their search. The extent of it, I wasn't privy to, which is fine in the back end. But at the end of the day, Jim again walked to my office and said, quite frankly, remember, sometimes he says, sometimes you just got to throw someone the keys and tell you to drive. So he said, we concluded the search. You're the best one for the role. That person is already within our four walls of the building, and we want you to join the team. And at that point, I knew all the team members. I knew the HR staff. I had those established relationships. And I certainly knew the challenges and opportunities we faced in building an enterprise-wide HR function, because those that don't know a lot about Car Global, we're a family of companies. We're an acquisitive company that goes through, a lot of M&A. Quite frankly, that's what makes it so exciting. This collection of companies and trying to rally a commonality of cultures and commonality of people processes and approaches. It just would be that, that challenge that I ended up welcoming at the time. But, I liked the opportunity to move from a reactive state in legal, where a lot of times I was getting the problems downstream, defending the claims, sorting out the problems, doing the, discipline coaching on the back end. This opportunity let me move to the front and say, be very proactive in, the approach. So that was unanticipated. Went home, spoke it over, talked it over with the husband, and said, just go all in. What could go wrong? But I will tell you, I still had a lot of concerns at that time. I felt like it was a big risk, even bigger than leaving the partnership track at a law firm, because I'd established 8 years here. I had, like you said, I was very confident in what I was doing. It was stable. It was comfortable. I just felt, extremely on top of what I was doing. It was, what's next? Step out of your comfort zone. And so I went to talk to my CEO, and I just said, here's my concerns. Here's the things that I would need and support. He basically said, I won't let you fail. That's a quote. He said, I won't let you fail. So when you hear the CEO say that, and that they're making the changes that, I wanted reporting structure changes, I wanted budget, I wanted enterprise-wide systems, that I clearly had a vision. But when you have the CEO say, I won't let you fail, that was truly a big part of my decision to say, yes, I'm absolutely going to take it. I'm going to seize the day. There was just something about that kind of cheerleader in your boss, from your leadership perspective, someone who commits to you. And quite frankly, I felt like I had the entire team behind me as well. So that speaks to the tone and culture of the top at Car.
Was he the CEO when you joined Car in 2005?
Yeah, a very interesting story there. When I joined in 2005, Jim Hallett had actually been fired from ADESA that same year. So it was just ADESA when I joined, and a family of companies, ADESA AFC. And he had been fired in 2005 by prior executive team leadership, and a different president was in place. Thankfully, I was not in that employment role doing the termination
Right, exactly.
at that time, so I had no history. And then, if you haven't heard the story, and he talks about it freely in several different venues, is he believed so much in the company that he turned around and bought ADESA at the time in partnership with, he put together this private equity consortium of PE firms who came in and bought ADESA, formed CAR at the time, Car Auction Services, and blended us with another company, Insurance Auto Auctions, that the PE firms also owned, and brought Jim back as chairman and CEO. Actually, he was CEO at that point and became chairman and CEO subsequently, from the board standpoint. So it really is a great story, and he remains at the helm of the company, but he believed in the company so much that he thought, you're making a mistake by letting me go, and in fact, I'm going to come and lead the company once again. It's a really great leadership story in its own. So I think being able to follow that passion is unique as well.
Well, yeah, and I asked because you said when he offered up the heading up HR role, he said to you, "I won't let you fail," and so you clearly felt really supported by him. So I just wondered if he was there in 2005, right, when you also felt support by the organization at that time, that we want you as a candidate, and so even though it wasn't him, there was still that environment of support, which helped you in taking the risk.
I think absolutely. And, that support can come from, peer levels, superiors, subordinates, however you look at an organization. I felt extremely supported by the other attorneys, the general counsel in 2005. We had staffing. We did have a chief administrative officer when I hired in there. So I felt like it was strong support all the way around. And that's where you do lean in and lean on those around you for clues and how you're going to be successful. And it's never alone. It's always from a team structure. And I feel a lot of us overall, especially at CAR, there is no I in team. I know it's cliche, but we are a team, and to be a truly effective team, it's commonality, it's common goals. And I'll say one of the other things that Jim often speaks to around leadership, kind of tone and culture from the top, is make decisions with 70% of the information you have. Just go in. You're never going to have all of the answers. Just make the decision, fail fast if it doesn't work out, and it's okay to stumble along the way. We all might have stumbling blocks. I certainly have here. I've had some hard lessons, especially from the HR, taking over the HR side. But you could see, our leadership team backs the premise of what we're trying to do. We need to champion change. We need to champion people. And I feel like I've had the opportunity to do that since taking the role in 2013. And I get asked a lot, are you happy you made the move? How are you feeling? What are the challenges? And I just be my authentic self and saying, absolutely. I've seated at the executive table, saying all of the things to champion our people, our benefits, our onboarding, our employer brand, our culture, values. Those are all things that I didn't get to champion from the legal perspective.
Yeah, and most definitely you are now. And I want to talk about your team, because you are such a relational leader and you build a lot of trust and respect within your team. So I want to talk about that. But before we talk about your team, I want to go back to another parallel I see in both of these stories. When you first went to Odessa, and then in 2013, you're asked to lead HR for the first time, right? No one had ever been in that role. So a lot of uncertainty and a lot of building to do there. In both of those stories, Lisa, I heard this element of, I need to make the best decision for me. So I want to dig into that a little bit. Tell us about that process.
I do believe you have to be your authentic self. If you're not happy, if you're not challenged in what you want to do, you're not going to be all in. And part of that for me was just reflecting. I've been driven since I was a young girl. I always knew I was going to be a lawyer, and probably I was 7 or 8 years old. Started working as soon as I could when I was 13. Worked all the way through college, worked through law school. As soon as I got out, it was just that's me. It's how I'm wired. I want to work. I want to contribute. I want to be successful from the professional side. I want to have it all. I want the family, like most of us, we just have a vision of, what we want. May not happen on the timeline. Actually, it never happens on the timeline that you think it's going to happen. But taking stock of who you are, what you want to do, not what other people think you should do. Taking the opportunity to lean in when someone is offering you an opportunity that may bring you some anxiety or just questions. I felt, and I've always felt like if I'm not being authentic and true to myself and what I want out of it, what I can contribute, moreover, like how can I make this better? That's where I want to be. And, I think we've talked before as well is, if I'm not the right person, I want to recognize that or I want to work on it. I want to bring to the table, I always want to be the best or beneficial. And if there's someone who has, something more to add, that's where you rely on a team. You put your arm around them and bring them to the table.
Well, and that's where I hear you balancing all that with a lot of humility, because in both of the stories that you told, you thought about, am I the best candidate? You wanted to make sure that it was a fair, objective process, and you were being put into the role because that was the best thing for the business. So there's a lot of humility in that. Who in the world knows they want to be a lawyer at 7 years old?
I know. I can't really say why. It was probably some of the shows on TV.
Were you watching a lot of Law and Order?
Yeah,
What was going on there?
this is going to show my age, right? But I think it was like Murder She Wrote stories, and I know. Any mysteries. I'm still a fan of 48 hours and the next 48 hours, but I tell you, I have absolutely no interest in criminal law whatsoever. But I apparently thought that I was always going to be a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, so now you are heading up talent HR for Car Global. I think there's a lot of transferable skills, no doubt, that come into this new role. You have, I've been fortunate to get to see you in action, and your team has so much trust in you and care for you, and you all have a lot of fun as well. Talk about throughout your career, like how have you led through relationships?
I think, and this goes to a lot of my personality, transparent. I try to be honest with the team. Here's the good, the opportunities, but feel I'm best as a leader when I'm listening. And when I moved into the HR role, by example, I clearly spent the first year watching and listening and sitting with individuals who would say, I would just say, how are you doing? How are your processes? What are you working on? And some of them would say, I'll never forget, one woman who's now retired just said, no one has ever asked me how I'm doing and how this process, looks from my angle. So it's truly being a listener. I think it's all too easy, especially, in big organizations where we make assumptions. We at corporate HQ know what's going on, especially in this organization with lots of field-based employees like Car Global. It's decentralized. Our biggest population is in the field at physical auctions, at other corporate offices, at AFC finance branches. We're very decentralized, and I believe you have to be deliberate and intentional. Go find it. Right? What is happening? How do you take the feedback and make it better? The platform I had back in 2014, my first full year of watching, sort of what was going in HR, I basically came up with this campaign that said, titled, There's Got to Be a Better Way. And it was because we had 19 disparate human capital management systems. Each one of our subsidiary brands had a separate, at least 2 or 3 systems. I couldn't get an accurate head count. We had 3 different timekeeping systems because as an acquisitive company, it's often faster and sometimes easier just to bolt on new technology instead of moving into a single source. So through listening and that clear 6 to 9 month effort of listening, I brought, let's move to one system, get our true enterprise-wide view of people. And that's because I listened. We built 159 different pain points from our customers, and it would throw up on the slide and presentation, who are our customers in HR? It's not the president, right? It's every single employee within the company is our customers. So how do we make their pain points with the administrative processes disappear? And it's through listening. Employees have ideas, concerns, may not be what we think they are. So go out and listen. And I feel that is probably my best trait as a leader, and couldn't afford to be reactive. As a lawyer, you're right. You are reactive. Here, it's proactive. Go out and find it. That starts with listening. That starts with actioning it, showing you heard. Here's what I'm going to do about it, giving the results, and then going back out and saying, how'd we do? How is that working as you think about it? And with my team, first of all, I do have a fantastic team, and we laugh. We laugh a lot, which is great. But we also make some really hard decisions, and we're championing every possible avenue within people, from the employer brand at Car Global to engagement activities to recognition. And some of the big lessons I've heard through listening is sometimes a simple thank you is all they want, right? People just want to hear thank you. They want to see the appreciation. And sometimes I actually had an initiative last year that it was a thank you campaign. Every day, go find people and tell at least 5 people thank you. Sincerity, exactly what they did, how you're doing it. And if you spread that through, what was in an organization of 19,000 people, that's powerful, and it's authentic at the same time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think everyone just wants to feel seen and heard, and that's what you're doing by leaning in and listening to them and then encouraging the good work that they're doing.
I think it goes to back to Jim as well, in that, he says, I won't let you fail. That had a lasting impact on my approach to leading. But then, second side of that is I get to go out into the field and just hold listening tours with presidents or, chief operating officers or HR partners in the field, and just listen. And, you can hear sometimes they just want a working air conditioner in a break room. Sometimes they just like a t-shirt because they feel part of the team, or a refrigerator that works. It's the little things. It's not always a pay raise, right? It's not always a better benefit package, but how can you engage and improve, the working life of every employee through that listening campaign?
That's so good. Well, thanks for sharing that insight on how you lead through relationships, and it all starts for you. It starts with just being a great listener, leaning into that. So my key takeaways from our conversation are these. I think number one, in listening to your stories, both going to Odessa and then moving into the HR leadership role for all of CAR Global, I think it's first and foremost like you making the decision that was best for you. I really like your reminder about staying true to your authentic self, like knowing who that is, recognizing your strengths and what you want. And then the second thing is the support that you had around you to take a risk, to step out in courage. You had going to Odessa in that role, right? You had this organization who wanted the talent that you brought. You had family support. You didn't have the support at the firm that you were in, but maybe that's because they were so bummed to lose you. I don't know. But then, yeah, you said it a couple times, but just that really has an impact on me too. Jim's message to you of I won't let you fail. I think as leaders, what a good reminder to us. Do our people know that we have their backs and that we're setting them up for success? Are we doing all of the things to set people up for success? Put them in a position where they can win every day.
Clear key takeaways from that. And one thing I think, going back to leading my team, is I always say we have these Surgeon General's warnings that we share with each other. And, one of mine is I always have your back, even in times of a mistake or an opportunity. I will always support you. I'm on the front line when needed. And, please know that. And then I think if we're all leading with that, hey, just make decisions, even if it's only 70% of that information. Make decisions, and I'll stand behind you. I'm here to break down barriers and defend when necessary. But part of that, is really building up your your brand within the company that people can say, I know, she or that team means well. They're certainly going to make it right. If there's a struggle, if there's a bumpy ride, the importance of building the brand of your department within the organization too is key from my perspective as well. And that's a team approach for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and something you model. And so then no doubt your team members are modeling that as well, right? That gets driven through your organization. So Lisa, if our listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I am available through LinkedIn and, happy to connect and start, networking, join additional executive roundtables, HR groups. I certainly will continue to, meet not only areas, but national as well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, congratulations on leaning into these opportunities that you've talked about today, and just all of the exciting opportunities you have coming up as CAR Global unfolds.
Yeah, thank you. It's exciting, super exciting. We're always changing. No day is the same at CAR, as we like to say, and honestly, that's what keeps you going.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast to never miss a Being at Work story.